Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sharon. I am a staff attorney with Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid, and today we are presenting a Know Your Rights presentation and safety planning. A little bit about us. We are a nonprofit law firm in Minnesota offering free legal services to our most vulnerable neighbors. We do not work for the government, and we do not share information with the government about the people who attend our events. We serve a variety of different people in Minnesota, including the lowest income people in central Minnesota counties, including Hennepin. We serve seniors and immigrants in central Minnesota counties, including Hennepin and Anoka County. And we also have statewide outreach in through the Minnesota Disability Law Center, Project Care, Low Income Taxpayer Clinic, and the Youth Law Project. It's a variety of different legal issues. Those variety of different legal issues can include the things that are on the screen now: consumer protection, disability law, family and youth, housing, immigration, which we'll be talking about today, project care, public benefits, seniors, and taxes. And at the end of the presentation, I'll share more information on how you can connect with our intake line if you are interested in receiving any of our services or have a question about your legal situation, as well as other organizations that might be able to assist. A couple disclaimers before we get started. This presentation is not legal advice. It is only basic and general information as we know it today. If you have specific questions about your case or want legal advice, you should seek to speak with an immigration attorney or an attorney of the legal issue, for example, a family law attorney. You are able to leave questions in the comments today, but please note that this is a public forum and this presentation will be recorded. So please refrain from leaving personal details about your specific case, as again, these things will be recorded. At the end of the presentation, again, we will be giving information about our legal clinics that will offer free legal advice about your specific case and potentially offer a brief service as well with other organizations that may provide brief advice or service of your legal or immigration issue. The information in this presentation reflects the law as it is today, but laws can change with executive orders, federal lawsuits, or actions by federal agencies, and this is likely with a change of precedent as we just had this past January. So all of these things that we'll talk about are as we know it today. What is this presentation about? We will go over what rights you have and how to make a safety plan, how to protect your rights, how to prepare for an emergency, and how to get advice about any possible immigration benefits. This slide here is to go into the portion of the presentation about Know Your Rights. We do have a QR code at the top right corner where it has, if you scan your phone, you can get a link to different videos that will go through scenarios as well in English and other languages. I believe they are in Spanish and 5 other languages on how to defend your rights with ICE. We're going to start by talking about your rights with law enforcement. We want to reiterate that anyone can ask for help from law enforcement. Your immigration status does not matter when you are receiving help. When you are a victim of a crime or have an emergency, you can call 911 if you feel unsafe, if you have a fire at your home or have a medical emergency. The police and fire department and paramedics will come. So please keep using those services if you do have an emergency. Minneapolis and St. Paul here in Minnesota are sanctuary cities. What kinds of protections are there for immigrants in these cities? This means that police cannot ask you or anyone about their immigration status. If police do ask about your immigration status, you can remain silent. You can make a complaint to the city by calling your local member or local council member or connecting with a community organization who can help you. The officer or officers can be disciplined by asking those things. There is an ordinance that does not allow for those officers to ask you about your immigration status. The police cannot arrest or hold anyone because of their immigration status here in Minneapolis or St. Paul, and they cannot discriminate against anyone because of their immigration status. Other cities and counties in Minnesota may have similar rules. We would encourage you to look in your county and your city to see. You also have different rights with ICE. Again, there is a link to We Have Rights.us where there are various videos that go through the scenarios that we will talk about in simple and easy language. The videos are in English and Spanish and 5 other languages. But you have a right to video or film your interactions with ICE. You have a rights when ICE comes into your home. You have rights when you are interacting with ICE in public, and rights when you are arrested and detained by ICE. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's like the police of immigration. So please take a look at these videos in the link. Again, they have different languages to see really how you can exercise those rights. Educate yourself, your family, your friends, and your community to be able to stay protected when interacting with ICE or law enforcement agencies. You also have rights with law enforcement. What do you do if you're stopped by the police or ICE? It is really important that you stay calm and you do not flee, do not run. If you ask, you also may ask for an interpreter if you need one, if you cannot understand what the police are asking or what ICE is asking of you. It's important that you actually say, I want to remain silent, to exercise your right to remain silent. It's important to know that just because you say that you want to remain silent, it does not mean that the police will automatically stop asking questions. They may continue to ask questions. It will continue to try to make you to answer their questions. And you, if you want to exercise your right to remain silent, you must keep repeating that you do not want to answer questions and that you wish to remain silent. You could give your name, but do not lie. Do not give a fake name or present false documents. Do not answer questions that you do not understand. Do not answer questions about your immigration status or where you're from. And additionally, do not sign anything that you do not understand. There is no law in Minnesota that requires you to identify yourself to law enforcement or your immigration status. Additionally, you have the right to refuse a search. Do tell the officer that you do not consent to a search. The police may be able to pat down your clothing if they suspect that you have a weapon. The police may be able to search your car if they see evidence of a crime. You can also ask the police, am I under arrest or am I free to go? The police cannot keep you if they are not arresting you. If you are free to go, you may walk away calmly. ICE is looking for, we can say, low-hanging fruit or easy targets for folks that do not know their rights, that will be willing to give the information without them having that information, or people with removal orders, folks with conviction, possibly also people who don't know their rights, that they can remain silent, let's say in a workplace raid. So please remember that you should not give ICE any false information, but you do not have to give them any information except your name and that you want a lawyer. What would you do if the authorities come to your door? It's important that you do not open the door. If you have a window or can somehow ask who is at your door, that would be a better alternative than just opening the door. And then you would want to ask if they have a judicial warrant. A judicial warrant is a document that is signed by a judge that lets law enforcement come into either a home or search a person. If they have a piece of paper or a document that they would like to show you, you can also take a picture. If the warrant or that document is not signed, it means that they are not signed and does not have the name of the person of the home. You can refuse to let them in. That means that the authorities and ICE do not have permission to come into their home until they're requesting your permission, and you have the right to tell them that you do not consent to let them into your home or let them conduct a search. ICE doesn't have the right to enter your home without your permission. And so if they do have that document, you can tell them to slip it under your door to be able to see who has signed it and what information is on there. If they do have a warrant, you want to take a picture. And also, when it says a warrant of deportation, including a form that's titled an I-205 for immigration purposes, that does not count, and that does not allow for ICE or any law enforcement to come into your home without your consent. On the screen, there are two different pictures. I know it's a little hard to see, but on the left, on the top right, it says warrant for arrest of alien, and it looks like it is signed, but that is not a valid warrant to enter into the home. There needs to be a warrant from a judge. I know it is hard to see, but it is from the United States District Court. It says warrant as the title. It should have the name of the person that they're searching for, and then also a signature. A good way to tell if it's signed by a judge will say judge or honorable, and then if it's signed, then it is a valid warrant. The ICE warrant should also have, the warrant on the left, the ICE arrest warrant, will have the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on it, and that is not a judicial warrant, and that is not the warrant that would allow ICE agents to come into your home. Continuing with your rights with law enforcement, what do you do if you're arrested by police or ICE? Again, it's important to exercise your right to remain silent. Do not answer any questions or give explanations without a lawyer present. And again, the actual saying of the words are really important. You have the right to a lawyer and you should ask for one. If you cannot afford a lawyer, the government will give you a free criminal lawyer if you're arrested by police for alleged criminal conduct. Do not say anything, do not sign anything, do not make decisions without a lawyer. If you're arrested by ICE, you may still say that you would like a lawyer, but the government will not give you one if you cannot afford one. So feel free to search for lawyers and call them, or have family members call different lawyers in the instance that you are arrested by ICE. You also have the right to make a local call and to call your consulate. If you're afraid to go back to your country, you must say it. If you fear of return to your home country and you have a prior order of removal, you have the right to a reasonable fear interview. This is an interview where you will explain why you fear going back to your home country. And you may do this even if you are detained and you have a prior removal order. Even if ICE agents don't do anything, keep insisting that you are afraid to return to your home country. You are entitled to have another interview, even with a prior deportation order. If you are arrested by ICE and you have an order of deportation, you could qualify for a stay of removal in certain circumstances, and that is where an attorney can help you collect those facts to be able to submit that immigration relief. Anything you say can be used against you. So this is why it's very important that you remain silent and that you do not sign anything. If you are arrested for any criminal matter or anything that is alleged against you, you can ask a lawyer about the effect of your criminal conviction or arrest or accusation in your immigration status. We would advise that you call someone that you trust, you tell them what's happening, and have them call an immigration lawyer. If you call a lawyer, ICE or any law enforcement agency cannot listen to the call, and you have a right to be visited by a lawyer in detention. Again, we would encourage you to record everything. Having a record of what's happening in the interaction with law enforcement or with ICE may help you later. This would include if the police or ICE violated your rights. And so having evidence, whether that be through video or you recording or writing what happened in the interaction, can be useful in your case later on. While you're recording, do not interfere with the police. And you can also call someone and tell them everything that has happened. Next, we will talk about safety planning. Again, there is a QR code on the screen with a link to Law Help MN that will the link goes into immigration fact sheets. There's also different resources there for different safety planning documents that we'll be talking about today. So what can you do to prepare? One thing that I would like to share is that we are sharing these things not to scare you, but that in case something were to happen, you and your family are safe. So the first thing that we would encourage is to write down and memorize important numbers. An A number is an immigration number that identifies someone that is not a citizen in the United States, and any emergency phone numbers. This could be your attorney, it could be the school phone number, any numbers that you want to have on hand in case your phone is taken away. You'd also want to gather important documents in a folder, all immigration documents. If you have any relief pending, any receipts, copies of important documents, certificates, whether that be birth, marriage, divorce, adoption, naturalization, and evidence of how long you've lived in the United States and of your good character. Other emergency contacts can include your consulate, though you may not want to include this or contact your consulate if you fear returning to your home country. Another important number would be lawful permanent resident or a United States citizen who could pay a bond in case you are detained. If you do not know of a lawful permanent resident or United States citizen that could pay a bond, you can make connections within your faith community or a community organization, or they may be able to help. Again, anything with your A number would be an important document. And any evidence of your good character could include evidence that you've been here for a long time. That could be a lease, copies of taxes that you've submitted, bills, schools, transcripts, certificates, insurance, letters from employers. Those would be all good evidence of your good character. You'd also want to prepare your kids if you have any. You want to update their emergency contacts at school, potentially also identifying a person that could pick up your children in case that you or a caregiver would be detained. You'd want to practice with your children phone numbers and what to do if they also come in contact with ICE or any law enforcement agency, they would also have the same rights as we are talking now. And you want to decide who will care for your kids if you can't, and do a DOPA. A DOPA is a delegation of parental authority. And in that case, that would allow a person that you trust and have designated to allow to make decisions for your kids on your behalf when you are not available. It does not give any custody rights, or you're not giving any parental rights away. You may also apply for any immigration benefits available to you. Again, this can be done by consulting an immigration attorney as things may change, or maybe life circumstances have changed from the last time you spoke to an immigration attorney, and see what other benefits may be available to you right now. Minnesota ID and driver's license as of October of 2023 or 4, if I'm not, or 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Minnesota does not require you to have any immigration or lawful status to apply for an ID or driver's license, so it'd be wise to apply for one. And also follow trusted sources for information about changes in the law. Any documents that you should carry in this time would include a Minnesota driver's license or identification. One thing I forgot to mention is that Minnesota does not share any information about licensed drivers or people that have identification with federal immigration authorities unless they have a court order. And so they would only share any information that is allowed or required by law. So by applying for a driver's license or applying for an identification doesn't put you at risk of knowing that or putting you like on immigration's agenda, because they do not share that information. Sorry, can we go back to the documents? So you'd want to carry your Minnesota ID or driver's license. Do carry your valid green card if you are a lawful permanent resident, or a work permit if you have employment authorization. We would encourage you not to carry your passport or any consular ID, and do not carry any false documents. We would not advise that you have to carry evidence of any foreign birth, or never have to use false documents or lie, and that may present even more risk or more trouble. What has happened so far? There are new executive orders and new law. The first that we know is the refugee admissions will pause starting January 27th of 2025. There was an executive order from President Trump that started them, and it's unclear as of now if and when these admissions will start again. We know that in his first term of President Trump, refugee admissions were at a historic low, and we do not know what that looks like moving forward right now. The second thing that we know so far is that expedited removal applies to people in the country who have been in the country for less than 2 years. Expedited removal is a process where people can be deported without seeing a judge unless you express fear of return to your home country and you pass an interview showing that your fear is real. And so this is where it would be very important, whether you have a deportation order or not, that if you were to be detained and you have less than 2 years in this country, that you would express, if you do have a fear, that you have a fear to return to your home country. We also know that there's a new law that would allow for mandatory detention and arrest for certain crimes, including robbery, shoplifting, assault of an officer, and any other crime that results in serious bodily injury or death. And this means that you will be detained during your deportation proceedings. This law does not apply to those who are lawful permanent residents, who are refugees, and also those that have entered on visas. And so it is important that you refrain from any criminal activity, as there are more severe immigration consequences now. Citizenship is still a right given to anyone born in the United States. We know that there have been an executive order trying to stop this, but birthright citizen is a right in the Constitution. And though President Trump is trying to change that, it's not the role of the president to change the law. So there are lawsuits already. It's supposed to the order does say that it's supposed to start applying in February of 2025, but right now there are lawsuits that have paused that and will most likely not go into effect because of that. So what can you keep doing without fear? We would encourage you to keep applying for Minnesota Care and public benefits. This is available. Minnesota Care is available to anyone who lives in Minnesota, regardless of the status, and anyone that would be in the eligibility requirements for Minnesota Care, so likely for those who have low income. You will not be given benefits if you do not qualify for them. The new Minnesota Care extension is to cover those regardless of immigration status, and actually forced the Minnesota Department of Human Services to address this issue. That it would to address the issue and to collect the information of indicating whether someone or a household member is in the U.S. without authorization. So they do not now. And the new application that is used by everyone that's applying, not only those that have indicated that they are not citizens, ask only if the applicant is a U.S. citizen or a national or has one of the immigration statuses listed. So the fact that someone is undocumented and isn't associated with their name or any of their application materials. And so that is not a barrier for you to get services. We would encourage you to still get the healthcare that you need, to still go to your medical appointments. If you are expecting to still visit the hospital and to get all the healthcare that you need, we encourage you to keep sending your children to school with the safety planning of changing their emergency contacts and explaining to them what to do. To drive with a valid driver's license, and to go to your immigration court hearings if you are in court or get a notice. It is extremely important to keep going to your immigration court hearings. If you don't go, there is a risk that that a judge will order a removal order against you, and you have a higher risk of being detained and deported if without fighting your case because of a missed appointment. You can go to court even without a lawyer, and even if the judge has given you more time to get a lawyer. If you've had a hard time finding an affordable lawyer, you can keep asking for more time. It may be that the judge will ask you to move forward eventually if you can't find one. One thing to note, that it is risky for someone with a prior removal order to accompany another person for their immigration hearing. We suggest that you find someone that can accompany you that doesn't have a prior removal order. How to find a lawyer. There are different ways to do that. You can go to the AILAlawyer.com and find a lawyer based on your location. Also at the lawhelpmn.org, providers and clinics can provide some referrals to different attorneys, and also where to get free legal advice and brief services. There are free immigration legal services in the Twin Cities as well, and some I think that also offer services to broader Minnesota. And here is the information with the Immigrant Law Center, the Advocates for Human Rights, Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid, Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Services, and the Volunteer Lawyers Network, and when is the best way to contact them. We would really encourage you to use these resources to find legal services and legal providers. We know that there are many immigration scams or notario fraud that would present us someone that is licensed to provide legal advice or to carry out cases, and ultimately will either give the wrong advice or create errors for your case later on. And so we'd encourage you to use these resources to find a provider that would be able to best answer your questions. You may also seek different legal advice and brief services through our clinics. We have 2 staffed by immigration attorneys at White House and Brian Coyle. And then also the Volunteer Lawyers Network has walk-in clinics through the Park Avenue Clinic and Unido's legal clinic as well, with the times and place. This presentation and information is recorded and will be available again on our Facebook and YouTube channel under Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid. And so in case you don't have time to jot all this stuff down here today. Okay, and if there's any questions, again, I would just encourage you to leave general questions. Any details of your specific case should be reserved for an immigration attorney. And I would just reiterate that the best place to find this information and presentation after the live stream is on our Facebook and YouTube pages under Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid. It is being recorded. You can also find the link to the recording and more information on our website at mylegalaid.org. And also getting advice from these brief services and advice clinics through Mid-Minnesota or the Volunteer Lawyers Network as well. I think the most important thing of this presentation, as there are many sources of information, whether that be on social media, family members, or even community members that you may trust, is that you do have rights. And so please feel free to share this information, to watch the videos that we've linked, because those are the best resources to know how to exercise your rights and that you do have rights. No matter your immigration status or your country of origin, or how you entered into the United States. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to leave a comment and our communications team will reach back out to them. I know that we also have another presentation with this information in Spanish next week, so keep an eye out for that, and our communications team will continue to post any additional information and Know Your Rights presentation on this page. Okay, thank you everyone. Goodbye.